At first look, South Africa is full of hope and promise. The upcoming World Cup match in 2010 will bring in millions of tourist dollars and has already created thousands of jobs on construction sites. Yet while there's increasing wealth, there is immense poverty. Many here haven't shared in the country's prosperity. This is Atteridgeville, located at the edge of the capital city of Pretoria. This sprawling township is home to 250,000 people, many drawn here by the hope of finding a job or earning a living in the city. Yet none have yet escaped the poverty. A smaller number of Atteridgeville residents are refugees and migrants attracted to urban areas by the promise of a better life. They are not alone. It's estimated that more than 5 million refugees around the world live in urban areas. The growing divide between rich and poor in the country has exacerbated the tensions between the two groups, which has sometimes erupted into brutal violence. Hassan Abdi works in the store in Atteridgeville. He fled the war in Somalia only to be stabbed last year in a xenophobic attack.
They start attacking us immediately, and then they broke the gates. Some of them they climb on top, and then they had broken all the things, and then they took all our property. Some of our brothers were killed, and most of them they ran away for their safety to town. Me, I ran away to catch a taxi somewhere, but when I was there in the road, some crowd of people attacked me, and then they stabbed me here in somewhere. I ran away to town.
The perception that foreigners, migrants and refugees are getting a better deal than South African citizens has fueled a high level of xenophobia in the country. Thus, the issue of helping refugees is a politically charged one and makes the job of the UN Refugee Agency extremely complex. It must tread a fine line in order to balance the needs of both groups.
We know that as people move from the township into urban centers, there's scarcity for resources, amenities like electricity, water, and whatever had been put in place cannot accommodate everyone. We are aware of all of this, and whatever UNHCR is doing at this point is to ensure that whatever is being given to the refugees, those with the locals would also benefit.
In 2008, the fragility of the situation became evident when refugees and migrants became targets of South Africans, frustrated by a system that seemed to reward only a few. This year, the economy has only gotten worse, and the most impoverished are fed up. Yet this time around, Atteridgeville leaders want to avoid violence by bringing the groups together.
Gradually, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere, definitely. Yeah. Unlike before people could not even to talk. Even though somebody robbed him right there in front of the office, he couldn't even tell. He couldn't even come to the office and say, somebody's robbing me. But now they do have a courage. They run direct to the office and say, somebody's robbing me. He's taking my belongings, you know.
We are all from Eve and Adam. And we believe that we are from one mother and one father, so that people can live together. So I think in the schools, we must teach these people about other countries, particularly for the liberation of these countries, what Mozambique did for this country, what Zimbabwe did, what other neighboring countries did for this country to be liberated.
But the Atteridgeville approach is the exception, and for the most part, newly arrived refugees and migrants find that surviving in South Africa's cities is full of pitfalls. Many, like Rubidzai, a refugee from Zimbabwe, live rough on the city streets. For now, she lives behind these blankets and cardboard boxes. It offers little protection.
The biggest problem is the raping. Others are previous months they are raped here, and the others are killed. They were killed here. So when we stay here, we are still afraid. Our life is not good actually.
The most vulnerable asylum seekers can stay a short time in UNHCR-sponsored shelters, but this is a temporary solution and only helps a very limited number. Joshua Bukombe and his large family stay in a shelter that houses some 40 others, including some single South African women. In the attacks of last year, he lost everything, and one of his daughters was raped. He fears they will be victimized again.
2010 is the World Cup here from South Africa. After 2010, what can happen here? And then I'm number one for victim for xenophobic attack, and number one. Now, I don't know. I'm scared about this story. It's gonna come back for me. Gonna come back for me again.
Another concern is finding work. Asylum seekers receive temporary stay documents, but many authorities don't know about them, and as a result, the papers don't guarantee assistance or safety. The lack of recognized documents means that finding a job is almost impossible. Many refugees resort to working on the black market and are vulnerable to exploitation.
We find out that a lot of refugees are living in the parks, in dilapidated buildings or buildings that are under construction because they have nowhere to go. It's all tied up to issues of livelihood. What can they pay? Can they find jobs? Unemployment, lack of access to job opportunities. It's a combination of all these factors which makes things really difficult for urban refugees.
While Hassan Abdi has work, he says he feels like a prisoner. He no longer feels safe to leave the store. He and 2 other Somalis stay in this small room. With only temporary status, they prefer to keep a low profile. And despite the efforts of Attridgeville to bring the communities together, he is still afraid.
The people, they must understand, I am not the problem. Yeah, the problem is other side of the government. Okay. Yeah. So the people always, they attack me. Why? I don't know.
It's a vicious cycle. Without recognized documents, refugees and asylum seekers prefer to remain invisible, making assistance almost impossible. And as long as refugees and migrants continue to work on the black market, they will remain vulnerable. UNHCR sees the solution as being a middle road, providing assistance to both citizens and urban refugees, thereby helping both communities and reducing animosity. Small-scale projects have already started. Along with the shelters for the vulnerable refugees and asylum seekers, daycare centers like this one help both vulnerable South African and refugee women, allowing them to find work. Yet there is a long road ahead to finding real solutions for urban refugees in South Africa. The task is enormous, and UNHCR cannot resolve all the issues alone, nor can it control the current economic downturn, which has made finding a solution all the more urgent.